Good evening. This is Dan Jennings with your Blue Wave Report Candidates Corner. Tonight on the show, we have Matthew Park. He is running in Tennessee State House District 15. Good evening, Matthew. How are you this evening?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
Great, thank you. So tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are running in Tennessee.
Absolutely. So I grew up in a more rural part of Tennessee before moving into the urban core of Knoxville. I spent some time working as an EMT, so delivering healthcare directly to people's homes and seeing the issues that were out there. Over the past decade or so, I've worked in my professional job, which is to go into companies and help them find new opportunities with technology. My focus as of late has been around healthcare, actually, to try to make it cheaper using artificial intelligence and some different things to try to make healthcare easier to deliver to everyday people and help them get that access over means such as calling doctors and seeing doctors over the internet and things of that nature. I started wanting to run when I really noticed when I was an EMT actually that people were being dehumanized in Tennessee. So that's what led me to get here, and here we are.
Okay. Let's see. First question here. You were talking about your experience as an EMT. So let's talk about the opioid epidemic and what you see as Tennessee's legislature's role in curtailing that.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things for me is we need to stop treating mental health and substance abuse as a criminal act. We have a tendency, especially in Tennessee, to criminalize mental health issues. We criminalize substance abuse issues, and we're not providing the actual help that needs to happen. For me, I want to roll back time-based punishments focused on holistic treatment for mental health, substance abuse issues, but also look at deploying educational resources as part of that. So we're not giving mandatory minimums and time-based punishments.
Alrighty. You are against cash bail. Now, New York State just passed bail reform recently, and it's become kind of a controversy because we've had some people who are actually up on manslaughter charges being released on their own recognizances. Locally here, we had a attempted bank robber released ROR last week. And then we had the woman down in New York City who pulled 2 anti-Semitic attacks released on her own recognizances. So tell me exactly, well, pretty much what your plan for bail reform is.
Absolutely. So an important thing to note there is that people that had committed manslaughter and other things are released every day on cash bail. Those are normally wealthy people or people that have obtained a bail bondsman. So on the whole, the people being released are not that different than the people that would have been anyway, as far as violent crimes go. I think that we need to lean more into judges making good decisions on who needs to be eligible for bail at all in that pretrial detention. And then you mentioned the woman that committed another attack afterwards, right? That is a place where we can lean in and we can say, these people do have a mental health issue. We can see that, we can start treating that even before a trial.
Okay. That neck of the woods, that area of the country, we've seen things like bathroom bills and such passed. What are your views on gender equality, and what will you do to ensure the rights of our LGBTQ communities?
Absolutely. Well, Tennessee has never had an LGBT person in the legislature. It's one of 4 states that has not. I would actually be the first LGBT person to hold office in the Tennessee General Assembly. Because of that, LGBT issues are close to my heart. One thing that I think that we need to do, I've brought up mental health several times. We have a therapist bill that allows mental health providers to discriminate against the LGBT community. That would be one of the first bills that I introduce, is to repeal that, because we don't need to be legalizing discrimination, which is what happened for a lot of 2019 in the state legislature, and we're already seeing some bills being introduced. Part of that, I think, if you look at other legislatures when they've had their first LGBT person take office, things start to change even because of the presence of an LGBT person at the table. So I think that's one of the important things that I'll be able to do is to be there and be a voice.
Okay. There is a little bit of a controversy over community oversight of the police in Tennessee, that the state limits that oversight. Can you go into a little bit of what the limitations are and what you'll do to correct these?
Absolutely. So the main limitation that people talk about is subpoena power was removed from those community oversight boards. It is important to note that subpoenas can still be issued, but those community oversight boards have to go through a process and they don't have independent power to do that. That's a law that was put in place last year, and I think that we need to repeal. But we also need to give more power to these community oversight boards, not just to look at cases involving the police as complaints are filed, but also do more proactive monitoring, understanding what new issues are there that people may not be filing complaints about, as well as giving them wider latitude to ask questions of the police departments they serve.
Okay. Tennessee is a right to work state. We have seen time and time again that actually just basically means your right to work longer hours for less pay. I know you're big on repealing it. How are you going to convince your counterparts and the other members of the legislature to repeal this law?
I think repealing the law is actually a very Republican thing to do, especially when you talk about smaller government, pulling back laws that hinder people. Individual rights is a big thing among the Republican caucus inside the state legislature in Tennessee. So I think that is one argument to be made. The other one is simply raising the level of public compassion. According to an MIT study that was done in Knoxville, a living wage, you have to make at least $10.43 an hour. All across Tennessee, we're seeing people that are not able to make ends meet because they're being paid $7.25 an hour, or even lower if they're a member of the service industry. So I think that there's real human rights arguments to be made that I believe can land well with our Republican colleagues.
Okay. The environment, the Green Deal. I saw that you're a big proponent of that. One of the things I felt in the 2016 presidential election was that Hillary Clinton lost the election when she went into coal country and told multi-generational coal workers that she was going to put them out of jobs, and then did not follow up by explaining how she was going to keep roofs over their heads and food on their table. How are you going to transition your state into green new industries while still ensuring these multi-generational workers that they'll be able to put food on their tables?
Absolutely. So Tennessee is a beautiful place to live and work. I think that we have some work to do, especially around public transit, to help lure new economy jobs here. So we can bring tech companies here, we can bring sustainable energy companies here, and while doing that, help transition the economy. My goal is 100% clean and renewable energy by 2035. So by bringing those companies here, because their workers would have good, clean, safe, beautiful places to live and work, I think is a really big way that we can do that. And we can do that by putting more people to work. So by making investments in a Tennessee Green New Deal, we can actually deliver more jobs than we have today.
Okay. Gun control laws, sensible gun control laws. Which gun control laws would you support? And how would you convince Second Amendment proponents that it's not infringing on their rights?
Absolutely. I think that big laws that I would support, we just had a law that go into effect in Tennessee allowing an online permits to go into place. We need to repeal those laws. We also need to strengthen our background check process. These are things that I think we can all agree on at the end of the day. We've had some shootings directly in Tennessee, in Chattanooga and some other places. So I think that there is a wave of people on both sides of the aisle that are willing to do some real common sense gun control in Tennessee.
Okay. Healthcare issues, especially women's healthcare. We've seen a lot of battles on everything from abortion right down to contraception. What is your feeling on the state's position on women's healthcare?
Yeah, I think number one, we have to trust women, right? We don't need to infringe on a woman's right to have a personal conversation and personal treatment with her doctor. I believe in comprehensive, age-appropriate sex education, that if you want to reduce the number of abortions, that's where we start. It's not by putting politics into the doctor's room between a woman and her doctor. So I support repealing back everything that gets in the way of safe, affordable abortion for women that have decided that that is right for them.
Okay. One last question, and then I'll get to the fun question, because I always like to throw one in at the end. Election security, paper ballots. If you're elected, would you push for paper ballots, or at least a paper ballot audit trail for any electronic voting that would be done?
Absolutely. So actually in Knox County, in the primary I'm running in, will be the first election that we were back on paper ballots in August. I believe that at the very least, we need a paper trail, whether that's paper ballots. For me, it doesn't, it's not a big issue. As a tech person, I believe that we need to create independent commissions to review the code and the security behind electronic systems, and have those audits conducted regularly and every time there is an update.
Awesome. All right, now for the fun one that I like to throw in. And sometimes this throws people off, sometimes it doesn't, but I try to mix them up. All right, let's play GM for a minute. If you're GM of the Tennessee Titans, do you sign Tom Brady?
No. We want people to play football, not have issues outside of that. We want people to come in and make our state a better place. So if the question's do I sign Colin Kaepernick? Absolutely.
Coming from a Jets fan, I loved that answer. All righty. Well, Matthew, I thank you for being on the show tonight. Wish you the best of luck in your campaign. And after your primary, like I told you earlier, should you prevail, we will do this again.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time, and you have a great night.
Great, thank you. And that was the Candidates Corner for this evening. Our guest was Matthew Park, running for Tennessee State House in District 15. That will be it for this evening. We will have a couple more interviews coming up tomorrow and next week. Please subscribe, share, and don't forget to hit your notification button so that you know when we post great things like this interview with Matthew Park. And Dan Jr. is going to go with the out here. What do we tell him?
I'm just coming at. Goodbye.
Good night, everybody.
Dun, 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 dun.
Okay.